In Madrid, meanwhile, Catalonia was also hogging the headlines, but a different version of events was being presented. El País front page photograph of the strike was of 24 youths running onto a road to stop a car, suggesting chaos rather than organized protest. The Catalan government takes its insurrection onto the streets on the day of disorder, read a headline above it. Such contrasting interpretations of what is happening in Catalonia reflect the deeply divisive nature of Spain's territorial crisis, and the media has been a key factor in fueling the polarization. Newspapers, radio and television have been mobilized on both sides. Instead, news anchor Pedro Carreño told viewers there had been pushes and moments of tension, suggesting that responsibility for any violence had been shared. The coverage by the national broadcaster drew outrage from some of its staff in Catalonia. The front page of Barcelona's La Vanguardia newspaper on 4 October was dominated by the ongoing Catalan crisis. An aerial photograph showed tens of thousands of people demonstrating in the city centre the previous day, when a region-wide strike had been staged in protest at attempts by Spanish security forces to stop people voting in Sunday's independence referendum. The article below the photograph underlined how successful the strike had been. They issued a statement to denounce the editorial line of their employer, whose senior appointments are heavily influenced by the Spanish government. The portrayal of a skewed version of reality has given a ridiculous and grotesque image of the broadcaster, they wrote, instead of guaranteeing the fundamental right of honest and plural information, which is the obligation of TVE. Staff complained that the channel had censored journalists in the Catalan coverage to manipulate the final news content. All the private TV channels were showing what was happening that day from early in the morning, says Rafael Gonzalez, a Madrid-based freelance TV journalist. One elderly woman was shown bleeding from the head after a baton charge, and another woman was shown being dragged by her hair along the floor of a voting station by a masked riot policeman. Those images, and accounts by many of the hundreds of people who have been hurt, were repeatedly broadcast in the days that followed. TVE, meanwhile, showed very little of the violence, or indeed the referendum itself, which the Spanish government insists was illegal. Two media outlets which have particularly opposing approaches to the situation are Spanish public broadcaster TVE, which is part of Radio Televisión Española, and Catalan public broadcaster TV3. On referendum day on 1 October, TV3 repeatedly showed footage of Spanish national police and civil guards charging into polling stations, beating voters and dragging them away before seizing ballot boxes. But TVE barely covered it. Yet the criticism cuts both ways.